Yikes. You know, it really did have to be right when I got back into Insurgency, didn't it? Giving my more recent and less than glowing reviews of the updates and actions of NWI, I really was surprised that coming back to Sandstorm this week, I actually had some fun covering the case of Sandstorm's player versus AI cooperative modes. So voicing an actually positive perspective on this aspect, plus going as far as to say this: I'd like to see the next major update really focus on implementing a far better experience in PvE and making the game more fantastic as a whole.
You serious?
They really did have to immediately piss and shit the bed and then proceed to screw the pooch that is the fan base of their small game. Because as it turns out, I can't have nice things and neither will you. Now, if you're somehow not aware by now or else watching in the future, Tuesday this week, New World Interactive has announced a new update coming February 2nd, and as the first major content release of 2021, have managed to start the year with literally pissing everyone off. I, unaware of this, went on the Reddit that morning to throw up my video actually giving credit to these people, and I returned to find this disaster igniting the community and effectively throwing gasoline on the fire of every primary complaint I and many fans of this game have ever made.
We did it, Patrick! We saved the city!
So if you're not caught up, I'm going to do that now, and I promise what I'm about to show you isn't even a meme. Believe me, I wish it was.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
The new update coming February is this. Now, I actually first saw the meme of this with the Fortnite skins, and I completely thought it was just some shit post, but no, I failed to recognize that two of these things are being added to not Fortnite, but Insurgency in under a week from now. And honestly, I see a lot of people just memeing on this frankly dogshit cosmetics gallery or else mocking the stark contrast between this and previous aesthetics of the game, even the paid ones. Like, I remember Nightfall's event went over well enough, but caught flack for having Technicolor skins in a milsim game. And then the controversy because this didn't look like Iraqi special forces, even though there was a solid argument that it did, and I didn't really care because at least it looked feasible and it turned out to be in a sense, and then nobody really complaining about the cosmetics of Cold Blood, even though neither looked particularly good like the previous entries. But between the mild controversy when we were saying that they were doing Fortnite cosplay and today, when did the developers of this game decide that it was actually a good idea to do what we joked about months ago?
Shit, I don't even know. Like, I can't even tell you that. Like, you know, like, I don't know, like, never know, you know, like.
And before you guys in the comments call incompetency or else malice on the part of NWI, I won't say either. In fact, it's a very simple strategy, and if you've been around in the gaming world for the past couple of years, you may know where I'm going with this, and you won't be surprised either. The fact that Insurgency Sandstorm is seeing an update like this is not new, maybe to the game, but not to gaming. Nor is it creative, nor is it news to many people who've seen other titles do exactly the same. Off the top of my head, Overwatch, Warframe, and Rainbow Six Siege, all games which somewhere along the midst of their lifespan as shooters made the executive decision to branch out their marketing and expand their audiences. This is corporate language for we're gonna do a festive update and change some things up in the game as to appeal to the censorship authorities of the Chinese government and market our game to an otherwise unexposed audience. Now you might say that that's crazy or just stupid conspiracy thinking, but to counter the idea that this would be crazy to disregard their fan base and pander to a market which otherwise bans their game from Converse, I have a number: 1.3 billion people. About to be 1.4, probably already as a matter of fact, because this was as of 2 years ago, and that is the number of people who cannot otherwise play or view advertising of this and many other titles. And with one update, you suddenly have the package deal to please the powers that be of a foreign entity and open up an entirely new, giant market. Now, to preface anything else before I continue with this video, and before anyone thinks to assume anything about my stance here, I do not have a problem if if people in China want to play Insurgency Sandstorm. I did not have a problem with people in China getting to play Siege, or Warframe, or Overwatch. Good for them, they were fun games. My channel was founded on the idea that I wanted as many people to experience this and other games as I do, and ultimately have a good time. And that does not change based off of the governing power of people who don't otherwise have a choice. What I do have a problem with is the idea that not only do our developers continuously ignore the feedback from the already small community they have to begin with, but having made these additions to please a country which is already otherwise entirely uninterested in the game as it is, so too must we face the additions, whether or not they fit with our understanding or not. Still don't believe me? That's great, because the same thing happened with the last game I played religiously as I do Sandstorm, because somewhere back in 2018, Ubisoft Montreal, the developers of hit tactical realism shooter Rainbow Six Siege, announced that they were moving forward with plans to build a single universal game more compliant with what they dubbed decency laws within specific Asian territories, read China. This, alongside the adoption of a new branch of Chinese police operatives, and Ubi was set to having their game played by countless new players, and all they had to do was the following. Remove all skull iconography as well as any references to spirits, ghosts, or else any other paranormal activity. Remove all sexual references within maps and content. Remove all references to lotteries or themes of gambling. And so on. Now, gameplay wasn't set to be affected whatsoever. Just a whole bunch of maps and imagery, and I don't know, any character unfortunate enough to have a skull pictured somewhere on their body. But it wasn't even the loss of much of the atmosphere that came within the game that stung within the community. It was in fact the idea that the devs were willing to make these huge changes to their games and run through hoops for these laws and organizations, not to mention the fact that in doing so, they dragged the fans with them, insistent that if China had to have these changes done, so do you. And needless to say, putting an entire worldwide audience under the thumb of a governing organization of a singular country was not popular among the community whatsoever. In fact, in my opinion, it signaled the downfall of the game for many of the original players like myself. Overwatch, which I also played, did much of the same. These updates frequently take place on or around the Chinese New Year or else other holidays. Warframe did similar too, and looking at where all three of these games are today, let's face it, the strategy didn't save them in the long run. The February 2nd update is going to be a celebration of the Chinese Lunar New Year, in which Insurgency will see updates adding classical guns from the history of Chinese weapon development, as well as colorful and cultural cosmetics highlighting and celebrating the merits of the nation. Say what you want about the strange clothes and the pathetic, lazy excuse of a skin that doesn't deserve my money, much less the time of day. Siege did it better. You can write that off as stuff that a different audience would appreciate, and I take no issue with people liking what they like, but the fact that NWI has chosen China over the interests of me and the interests of you without even throwing us a bone or giving us some semblance of cultural appreciation that we can understand, and forced us to adopt themes which are entirely off color from the rest of the game, all in the name of money, is so deaf and dumb that I can't say anything good about the game's newest update. Now, I would love a China Cosmetics update in theory, where instead of Dollar Store Commander Cobra and Battlefield Recon on crack, we get cosmetics that look like this or this, because these look badass and accurately represent the culture and style of the real world operators. But since uniforms from the Party City discount bin is all they could afford, you won't see me giving them a single penny for their shitty update. So for closing thoughts, in response to the generic argument of they need money, Rainbow Six didn't need money. Overwatch didn't need more money. Warframe, well, you get the point. There's plenty of ways to get cash outside of selling your fanbase out for a new one. They could find a solution where everyone is happy, but instead they have chosen the path of least resistance and ultimately making the least amount of content of interest to the people who bought their game already. One more thing before I go. Ubisoft didn't go through with it, not with the whole one universal game thing at least. The solution was simple, and pleased every party involved. They just made a separate game version. New World Interactive, take notes. I'm already getting comments on people leaving the game because of this. It's just the last straw, and I really can't tell you what the future of Insurgency looks like, at least for a Western audience. All I have to say is that that's a hell of a way to thank the people who've been sticking with your game from the start. Peace.